Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, and all of our guests today on this Wednesday, including Ted Nolan, standing by, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Where do we begin with Ted Nolan? There's a whole lot here. Former NHL head coach and player, won the Adams Award in 1997 with Buffalo, but wouldn't work in pro hockey again for close to a decade. Ted has written a book. It's called A Life in Two Worlds, A Coach's Journey from the Reserve to the NHL and back. And Ted joins us now. Ted, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Very good, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. What led to you writing this book, Ted?
Well, I didn't plan on writing a book. I did an interview maybe 2 years ago on truth and reconciliation. And anyways, we're going through some of the trials we went through as a people. And I just really got very, very emotional and I couldn't do the interview. And Penguin must have seen the interview and thought it would be a good story to tell. And I'm glad they reached out.
You grew up, as you referred to, Ted, on a First Nations reserve. What are your memories of that, and how did you get into the great game of hockey?
Well, I grew up in a place called Garden River First Nation. It's just outside the city of Sault Ste. Marie. I'm from a Dutch family. I got 6 brothers and 5 sisters, and times were very, very lean and very tough in those days. A lot of times I woke up in the middle of the night freezing cold because the wood stove went out, and sometimes I went to school with no food in your belly. So it was tough. But the one thing I found really comforting to me was hockey. I made my own rink in my backyard. We had a community rink, but the adults always seemed to be taking up all the space. So I built my own in my backyard, and I tell this to kids all the time. I built it with a pail of water. I think I was 7, 8 years old, and I carried the pail from front of my house to the back of my house, and probably must have been half full when I got back there. But it was a form of perseverance. You just stick through it, and eventually that's where I really learned how to play the game, and I had some friends over, so it was a lot of fun.
The key to making the National Hockey League: build your own rink. It sounds pretty easy, Ted, but I know it wasn't. Racism. How much of an obstacle was it for you?
I wish I would have been able to just concentrate on the game, and who knows what would have happened. But when I first left home, I left home as a 16-year-old, and someone saw me play somewhere and asked if I'd be interested in trying out for the Kenora Thistles in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, which I gladly accepted. And I thought I was going to Disney World, to tell you the truth. Someone wanted me to play, and when I got there, it wasn't exactly what I thought. The guys on the team were pretty rough and mean at the time. Fighting in practice and fighting it even in training camp, trying to make the team was very difficult. And I never fought in hockey before. Then you go against the opposition. There's some more fighting, and the name calling came in. Your prairie N-word came out a lot. And then went to school, same thing at school, and so I couldn't handle both at the same time. So one had to give, and so I stopped going to school, and I tried to concentrate on hockey, but I very, very remember a little bit of it.
Ted, you get into coaching and Sault Ste. Marie, and what a great run. And we remember you in Seattle in '92. You lost that heartbreaker to Kamloops. You get the 1997 Jack Adams Award, but you wouldn't work in hockey for a while. Some pretty vicious rumors surrounding what happened with you in Buffalo. What did happen there, Ted?
Well, I remember Seattle very well. 14.6 seconds left on the clock. Yeah, it was tough. But what happened in Buffalo, to this day, I still really don't know all the details, except they started making up rumors. I would have preferred just to have been fired and just say, hey, we're going in a different direction, which they all say. But in order to justify, after winning the Coach of the Year, they said I was a hard guy to work with. I wouldn't listen. I was lazy. I came to practice drunk, and those were stereotypical things that they said amongst our people for a long time, and especially the drunkenness at practice really took its toll on me. My mother was killed a few years before that by a drunk driver, a non-native guy going through our community. So that one really hurt, and it really stung. And like I said, that's what I remember. So it was painful to get over.
Ted, you're out of hockey for so long. Who was it with the Islanders, and you got back? How did that happen?
Well, right before that, I got a call from Mr. Robert Irving from the Moncton Wildcats of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and he'd asked if I'd be. I mean, this is 10 years after.
Yeah.
And excuse me, to tell you the truth, I was kind of nervous and not coaching for 10 years and going in there. And then halfway through the year, Charles Wong from the New York Islanders calls me and asks if I'd be interested in coaching the Islanders after this length of time. I declined the opportunity at that time because I made a commitment to the Moncton Wildcats for the complete season, not half. And at the end of the year, they offered it back. So I was very thankful for Charles to give me that opportunity to go back into the Long Island. But here's a side note to the whole thing was Pat LaFontaine was an advisor to the New York Islanders at the time, and so if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't get that offer.
Boy, Ted, I got to tell you, your tough times in Kenora, and along the way, somehow you make it to the National Hockey League, and then that 10-year period where you were, let's be honest here, blackballed from the National Hockey League. What does that say about your perseverance, and do you talk about that in the book?
Yeah, I talked about it, but when I got let go from Buffalo, as I had some really tough blows and how to get through it. And I kind of just sucked it all in. I never, there's a big thing about mental health these days. And for a young boy to go through that, I just kind of sucked it all in and never really express my feelings to anybody. And all of a sudden, you go through the Buffalo, you go through the Kenora, you go through the name calling, you go through bullying at school, you go through the day schools, and but nothing really hit hard until Buffalo. And I got let go for something that I really loved to do, and I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. And all of a sudden, they take that away. That was probably the toughest thing I ever went through in my life, and it took me 2 to 3, maybe 5 years to get over it because of the hurt that it created. And I kind of went into a dark place for a couple of years, and I thank God I had my wife who was with me since she was 16 years old, and we're celebrating over 44 years of marriage. And but thank God she helped me guide me through this tough period of time. And right now I'm probably in the best place I've ever been in my life. I feel very good. What we do, I work with my 2 sons, doing some hockey schools and First Nation communities. So I feel really good right now.
Yeah, your 2 sons. Brandon was drafted by the Canucks. Jordan, the Canucks should have drafted him, Ted, because the Stanley Cup follows him around. He won 2 with LA and 1 with St. Louis. What was it? What you went through? What was it like for them? Was it any better?
It was a lot better because I think when you go through something, knowledge is a key. Once you know better, you do better. And so we put our sons into hockey, but we kind of watched them like hawks. We make sure that nobody was yelling names from the stands, and the coaches weren't too boisterous with them. And there was a lot of misunderstanding when I was playing. A couple of practices that I missed. It wasn't because I was lazy. It wasn't because I didn't want to go. I just didn't have a car to get me there. So my boys had the luxury of mom and dad always there, getting the better skates that fit. My first pair of skates, I think, were size 8. My feet were size 5. My helmet was this big and my head was little. So anyways, but they had a lot better opportunity, and I didn't put them in hockey so they could play in a National Hockey League. I just love the game itself, and I think it's sports is a real good thing for our children to play.
Hey, Ted, truth and reconciliation, you brought it up. Where are we these days in Canada when it comes to that subject?
Yeah, it's at least it's talked about now, and it's coming to the forefront. When I was playing, I just mentioned it yesterday. It was fragrant. I mean, people just yelled it and didn't have any recourse for what their actions were. The players yelled it, the fans yelled it. Now it's not as bad. It's getting a lot better. Do we have a ways to go? We certainly do. And here's a real nice thing. I watched my grandson play baseball. And he misjudged the ball and hit him in the head. And and his teammates ran over to him to comfort him, to make sure he was okay. And if that would have happened when I was playing, they probably said, "Look at that dumb Indian; he can't even catch a ball." So we are making strides, and we got a ways to go yet.
Yeah, you touched on this, Ted. Before we let you go, what are you up? You look great, by the way. What are you up to these days?
Well, right now I'm working with the Chiefs of Ontario. I'm a political advisor for Glenn Hare. He's our regional chief in Ontario, and doing some work with them, and just can't wait to get on the road again with my sons doing a hockey school. I came up with a little illness not too long ago, but I'm fighting through it, and so once I'm up and healthy perfectly now, I'll get back out on the road and do some hockey schools again.
Well, best of luck with the book, and I've always been a fan of yours, except for one time, and that was in 2014, because that Latvian team you coached almost knocked off Canada at the Sochi Olympics. It was close. It was a 1-goal game, wasn't it?
I tell you that was probably one of the unique opportunities I ever had in my life, and seeing how the Europeans approach a game and their whole demeanor and whatever, and when they come over here, we have a whole misconception of who they are, and it's the same thing when we were growing up in the reserve, going into the city. I think there just has to be a lot more understanding of where people come from and who they are. But I just love the experience of Latvia. Had Arthur Zerbe, there's a name from the past, and a few player Sandis Oselinch that thankfully came out of retirement to play for us that year, and in that game against Canada, if we didn't get that bad call, who would know what would happen? But I was very proud of the effort and very proud for Latvia.
Life in two worlds, a coach's journey from the reserve to the NHL and back. Ted, thanks so much for doing this. All the best.
Thank you very much.
You bet.